voices of our youth are crucial to the way we shape our future.
Welcome to the 10th annual Asda Bersan Marsteller Arab Youth Survey. For the past 10 years, we have nurtured and grown this important piece of research and maintained its independence and credibility. For the last 10 years, we have been bringing the voice of Arab youth to governments and businesses across this vast region, and more importantly, to the international community that has a stake in the Middle East. For the last 10 years, we have been bringing actionable data and insights into the hearts and minds of Arab youth. This research is important because 65% of the Middle East population is below the age of 30. This research is more important because the 200 million Arab youth are the region's best hope for a brighter tomorrow.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Sabah al-khair. Thank you for being here with us today for the unveiling of the findings of the 2018 Arab Youth Survey. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Nadine Hani. I present the business news shows on Al Arabiya News Channel, and it gives me great pleasure and honor to be your MC and moderator this morning. As we have seen in the curtain-raising video, this year is a special one for the Arab Youth Survey because it marks its 10th anniversary. Hence, the theme, a decade of hopes and fears. A decade during which Asda Bersan Marsteller and its founder and CEO, Sunil John, have passionately worked to make this survey the largest of its kind of the Middle East's largest demographic, its youth. Across the years, they have tracked the youth's hopes, their concerns, and their aspirations, and provided governments, the private sector, and civil society those insights in order to help shape policy and help create a better future for the Arab youth. MENA is the world's second youngest region, actually, with 65% of the population under the age of 30, as we saw in the video. The biggest economic and social challenge facing the region right now is its youth unemployment, running at above 25%. The Arab Youth Survey gives governments a tool and the required insight into the hopes and fears of this region's youth. Across the years, it has become a reference not only for governments, but also for most media, international media outlets, and regional ones such as The Economist, The New York Times, The Financial Times, Al Arabiya, and many more, you name it. The survey's credibility stems from its independence. It is entirely funded by Asda Bersan Marsteller, and also from the methodology and experience with which it is conducted, along with the contribution of PSB Research, an international polling firm. So before I hand it over to Mr. Sunil John and Mr. Curtis Freed to present the findings for this year, I take this opportunity to congratulate Asda Bersan Marsteller and Mr. Sunil John personally for 10 years of the Arab Youth Survey. Just a few housekeeping remarks. It is the digital age, so I encourage you to follow the Arab Youth Survey accounts on social media and use the hashtag Arab Youth Survey. We look forward to reading your tweets, posts, and stories. And we also have a Snapchat filter that you could use if you're on Snapchat. Also, please note that the conversation will be conducted in both Arabic and in English, so there will be simultaneous translation. The headsets are available on the seats. Channel 1 is for Arabic and Channel 2 is for English. So welcome again, and welcome to those who are watching us live from work or from home also via the live stream. Last year, over 50,000 viewers tuned in to the live stream to listen to the findings. So I hope you enjoy the presentation and the conversation that will follow with our panelists. We will have a panel of experts to discuss the findings later on in the morning. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Sunil John up on stage to present the findings. He is the founder of Asda Bersan Marsteller and president of Bersan Cohn & Wolfe Middle East, the region's leading PR consultancy. And I would also like to invite Mr. Curtis Freed, CEO of PSB Research, who has joined us today all the way from Seattle, Washington, to also present the findings. Mr. Curtis has over 25 years of experience in polling, public relations, marketing, and marketing research. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nadine, for that kind introduction. This is indeed a special passion project for the team at Asda Bersin Marsteller PSB Research and Proof, and we have consistently grown this over the last 10 years. Work like this cannot be accomplished unless you believe in it and you're passionate about it. And I must say that being able to do this here in the city of Dubai and in the UAE is also because of the tremendous support that we get from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who has always believed in the credibility and independence of work like this. And he has actually tweeted some of the results this morning, and we will show you those tweets as soon as we finish this presentation. So I wanted to thank the UAE government and especially His Highness. I think we wanted to, this is a special year because of the 10th year, and when we really look back at the last 10 years, it's an extremely historic period. You know, we started in 2008, the height of the boom, when young people had a rosy view of their current and their future. And then came the financial crisis. It affected the entire world, and the Middle East wasn't spared really. So, you know, we had that impact, and then there were the beginnings of the uprisings, and you could see that with what happened in December 2010, November 2010 in Tunisia, and then spread to many nations. And then came the Arab Spring. And the 7 years from 2011 all the way till now to 2018, you see the region has gone through some severe ups and downs. There was the Arab Spring, the uprising, there was some sectarian divide, as well as, you know, the fall in oil prices where economies in the region was affected. Remember, we are talking to 18 to 24-year-olds. Generally, by nature, their point of view should be robust. And we've seen that heights of optimism and then a fall as well. And the AYS has actually borne witness to this sweep of history and this decade of hopes and fears that we have explained here. I want to quickly take you through some of the background information on the survey. As some of you who are familiar with this study, we go to 16 Arab countries, and we've clubbed them in 3 categories: the GCC, of course, North Africa, and Levant, plus other. The Yemen sample comes in the Levant. We do 3,500 face-to-face interviews. Ladies and gentlemen, this is face-to-face interviews and not online research. We take a lot of trouble to be able to get these young people, identify them, because the results are reliable. We only talk to country nationals. So when we do this in the UAE, we talk to people in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Sharjah, only nationals, so that the results are not skewed with probably other expats if they were in. And the sample is 50-50 male-female. Curtis?
As Sunil pointed out, 3,500 interviews face-to-face. That's no small feat. And every respondent had the ability to conduct the interview in either English or Arabic. It was their choice. Typically, we did 200 interviews per country, although in the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, we did 300 interviews in each country because they represent the largest economies. We also, in addition, we did 250 interviews in Iraq, and in Palestine, we did 150 interviews. We tried to represent multiple regions within each country as much as possible, not just the capital cities. So, for instance, in the UAE, 40% of respondents were from Dubai, another 40% were from Abu Dhabi, and 20% were in Sharjah. In Egypt, 50% were in Cairo, and then 25% each in Alexandria and Mansoura. And in Iraq, we did 50% in Baghdad, 25% in Erbil, and 25% in Basra. So now that we're done with the technical stuff, we'll hand it over to Sunil to start the findings.
Okay. Well, since it was our 10th anniversary survey, where the first 2 sections of the findings are related to the past 10 years So what do Arab youth think about the last 10 years? And then the second finding is about how they look at the next 10 years. So this is a new section that we have introduced this year. And the first finding is about how people see the past 10 years. And here, not surprisingly, people say, the young people say that the past decade was shaped by two very important developments in the region, the Arab Spring and the emergence of Daesh. And young people feel that the Middle East has been left drifting off course because of these. And let's look at the numbers, why we came to this conclusion. Here's the question we asked. If you look at the last 10 years, is the region going in the right direction or the wrong direction? And 55% of the sample across the 16 countries said wrong direction. And that's a bleak outlook. But when we split it in the geographies that we actually showed you before, the GCC is still robustly optimistic. Nearly 60% say that their countries are going in the right direction. But when you look at the opposite spectrum, which is the Levant, you see a massive bleak outlook. 85% say the countries are going in the wrong direction. We have a finding coming up later as well about Levant, and we'll spend some more time on that. And then, of course, North African countries with have relative stability. About 50% are saying that their countries are going the right direction. So, as if some of you remember, the top finding last year was Middle East, a region divided. So when you really look at the region, you're really looking at, at least two different GCCs, the divide between the haves and the have-nots. And I think this is something that will concern policymakers and decision makers, both in government and in businesses. The other finding is about when we ask the question, which is, the developments that has the biggest impact in the Arab world, the two that have come up on the top, much bigger than any other development, is the rise of Daesh and Arab Spring. And we specifically asked the question, do you think this is a negative or a positive development? 88% of the Arab youth across the 16 countries said the rise of Daesh is a negative development. The Arab Spring, 56%. So the jury's out. And then we said, let's dive a little deeper into the countries that were most affected by the Arab Spring. And you will see Tunisia, 50% of the young people in Tunisia still believe positively about the Arab Spring. It's one country clearly that has benefited from the developments of the Arab Spring. Libya, you'll see still a little bit of a positive, 42%. Egypt, about 23%. More importantly, 52% think of it as a negative development. And of course, war-torn Yemen, 50% think it's a negative development.
So that was the last 5 years, but what do young Arabs want for the future? And overwhelmingly, the Arab youth say that to steer the region in the right direction, action is needed on jobs, education, corruption, and the fight against terror. It's pretty striking. Arab youth are not at all confused about what they want in the future. They want peace, stability, economic opportunity, and a level playing field. The top priorities that were listed were defeating terrorism as number one, creating new well-paying jobs as number two, modernizing the education system number three, and cracking down on government corruption. This is just pretty straightforward stuff. They want to live a productive, purposeful life. They want to have good jobs and a safe home to raise a family in. And they want to have a sense of place and dignity in their own country. In his essay, so these things place well ahead of things such as the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, modernizing religious institutions, and diversifying the economies. These are basically kitchen table issues, we say in America. These are the things that people, when you sit down with them and have an informal conversation, what do they really care about? And these are the things that people fundamentally care about. In his essay for this year's Arab Youth Survey, Afshin Malawi notes that a decade of the Arab Youth Survey findings reflect a young Arab population that is frustrated but pragmatic. They're hungry for meaningful work, but they're also dubious of utopianist solutions. So today, young Arabs are very much focused on the practical goals, just the basics they want of their life: peace, work, peace, stability, economic opportunity, and a level playing field. Sunil?
So those were the first two findings, the past 10 years and the next 10 years. Now we want to go into findings that we think are important. The top 10 findings, by no means is this in any order of importance. Some people might find the next finding important, while others might find finding on Levant even more critical and important to look at. But this one is especially new and exciting. This is a new question. We focused on Saudi Arabia, and this was the key finding that came, that young Arabs see Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman as a strong leader who will shape the next decade. I mean, clearly, the man of the moment, the top Arab leader who will make an impact. And let's look at how we came to that conclusion. We asked three key questions in the beginning. We asked, do you support or oppose the decision by the Saudi king to appoint Mohammed bin Salman as the crown prince? And you see 63% across the 6 Arab countries saying they support that decision. And when we dig a little deeper into the Saudi sample, you'll see 91% support that decision. The second question we asked, do you think the Crown Prince will take Saudi Arabia in the right direction? Nearly 60% across the Arab sample said yes, he will. Right direction, 90% in Saudi Arabia. Remember, there are some don't knows as well. And then finally, we asked, is he a strong leader or a weak leader? And 64% across the Arab world said he's a strong leader, 97% in Saudi Arabia. And the surprising bit, I think everyone knew about young people's support of the Crown Prince and his policies, but the fact that it came from across the Arab region is a surprising result, and we thought we should bring it to everyone's attention. The second question we asked is about, the Ritz operation was top of mind and media was covering it across the world. We said, let's ask the young people, what do they think about what he's doing? And look at the response. We asked the question, to what extent do you support or oppose the Saudi government's anti-corruption measures? And 86% said they support that, of which nearly 94% from Saudi Arabia. And look at the support from the 3 geographies, from the GCC, North Africa, and Levant, all in the high 80s. So, this is very, very surprising. And in fact, Curtis's earlier finding that, young people want a corruption-free government because they want opportunities. They want an enabling ecosystem to be able to start jobs in the private sector, because the government is maxed out in terms of job creation. We asked specifically on the Vision 2030 plan, and this is just a Saudi sample, and we asked, are you confident the Saudi Vision 2030 will succeed in securing the future of Saudi economy? And look at that, 92% of Saudi youths are confident, and the support both across Saudi women and men. And finally, we asked a question related to, who do you think in the next 10 years, which of these individuals will have the biggest impact on the Arab world? When we looked at the 16 Arab samples, the first, the person that came on top of mind, 25%, 1/4 of the sample said Donald Trump. Second, of course, the first top non-Arab leader, Mohammed bin Salman, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and Vladimir Putin. But when we dug a little deeper into just the GCC sample, this is the result that came out. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman as the number 1, Donald Trump actually comes down to number 2, and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who's come in as number 3. Clearly an important development in how they see the leadership in the region changing, and how they see Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman as the iconic figure who is shaking up the status quo. The next finding is related to the question on the Saudi Arabia government's decision to allow women to drive, and we have been tracking this for some time in terms of how they see women's rights and freedoms. The young people have always supported this, but particularly this decision, which is so symbolic. The Arab youth overwhelmingly welcomed the move to allow women to drive in Saudi Arabia and say much more must be done to address the women's rights throughout the region. And here's where the facts come from when we ask the question, do you support or oppose this decision? Overall, 88% of all Arabs support this decision, both among men and women. GCC, North Africa, and Levant have very good support. But Saudi Arabia as well, very good support in the high 80s. But please note that nearly 18% of the Saudi sample do oppose this decision, including 19% of men and 17% of women. It is known that there is a conservative part of the kingdom that opposes this move, and we are not surprised at these results. We looked at the general statement which said Arab leaders should do more to improve the personal freedoms and human rights of women. 80% agreed to that. And, you know, contextually, when you dig a little deeper into just the Saudi results, you will see 92% agree with that statement, both men and women. So they do want 50% of the population to be a productive element of society, but they look at the driving decision, some parts of them, a little differently. But overwhelming support, which is great from across the region and from Saudi Arabia.
And now for another encouraging finding. Young Arabs are convinced that Daesh, and more importantly, Daesh's ideology will be totally defeated. So there's a very clear trend over the last 4 years that Daesh is, in the opinion of young Arabs, Daesh is getting weaker, not stronger. So we asked them, thinking specifically about Daesh over the past year, do you think Daesh has become weaker or stronger? And we see that in 2017, 61% said weaker. In 2018, that moved up to 78%, versus 31% saying stronger in 2017 and 16% saying stronger in 2018. And they're also increasingly confident that their governments can deal with Daesh. We ask, how confident are you in your national government's ability to deal with the threat of Daesh? And that the confidence has been increasing significantly over the years, from 47% confident in 2015 to 68% confident in 2018. And on the flip side, those who are not confident have decreased from 40% in 2015 to just 29% in 2018. But there's a cautionary note here. We still have 29% who say they aren't confident. And this concern is issued or is echoed by Hassan Hassan in his essay for the Arab Youth Survey. And he wrote that Daesh is already recovering in much of Iraq and Syria, not long after its territorial defeat. Instead of holding territory, Daesh has reverted to old insurgency tactics to maintain its ability to fight and inflict damage. So it's not enough to defeat Daesh militarily. As long as their ideology survives, even in a minority, they can inflict damage and destabilize governments. And to that point, a majority of young Arabs think Daesh and its ideology will ultimately be defeated. And this is a very optimistic result. So we asked, what do you think what is the future of Daesh? And we gave them 4 possible choices. One was Daesh would actually regain its territory and reestablish a caliphate. Only 6% of Arab youth said that. Another is that Daesh will be replaced by another terrorist organization, and 15% chose that answer. The third response was Daesh will lose its territory but remain a significant terrorist threat, which is what 18% of the Arab youth chose. But 58% said Daesh and its ideology will be defeated. So it's heartening that young Arabs believe this, but this is far from a sure thing. Again, looking at what Hassan Hassan wrote in his essay in the book that each of you have, He said the lesson here is that there is more to such groups than just popular appeal or lack thereof. They also feed on power vacuums, grievances, and indifference. He continues, the optimism that many young Arabs project in the survey's findings is betrayed by the numerous indications that countries like the U.S. and its allies in the region have no interest in rebuilding in Iraq and Syria, for instance. It's thus hard to be upbeat about the last defeat of extremists when governments are not willing to do what it takes to help keep them defeated. So it's very important that there's international cooperation to fill the gaps in power and to address the legitimate grievances that people in the region have. And to that point, on international cooperation, increasingly, the sixth finding is increasingly youth across the Middle East see America as an enemy and not an ally. We asked them, now thinking about your country and its relations with other countries, who would you say is your country's biggest ally, showing the top five? And you'll see that number one is the UAE at 37%. Number two is Saudi Arabia at 35%, followed by Kuwait, Russia, and Egypt. I will just note that these numbers do add up to more than 100%. That's because these were face-to-face interviews, and sometimes respondents gave more than one answer. We couldn't keep them from giving more than one answer. So even though it says your top ally, you would expect that to add up to 100%. But it does add up to more than that. The UAE and Saudi Arabia remain the top two allies, according to Young Arabs, and they've been in this position, since 2012. Russia appeared in the top five allies for the first time in 2017 at number 4, and they remain in that position today in 2018. And they are the only non-Arab country in the top 5 ally list. This year, the U.S. fell from number 5 last year to number 11 this year. And Russia has been the primary beneficiary of the U.S. decline. So when asked, thinking about your country and its relations to other country, who would you say is your country's biggest ally? 25% chose the U.S. in 2016, and that fell to 13% in 2018. On the flip side, in 2016, only 9% chose Russia. But this year, 20% chose Russia. And we can see, not surprisingly, that the pro-Russian sentiment is stronger in the Levant, with almost a third of young Arabs in the Levant choosing Russia as their country's top ally. Not only is the U.S. not seen as an ally, the majority of young Arabs actually see the U.S. as an enemy. So we asked, do you consider the United States a strong ally, somewhat of an ally, somewhat of an enemy, or a strong enemy of your country? And you can see a complete reversal in sentiment over the last 3 years. In 2016, 63% saw the U.S. as an ally, but in 2018, only 35% saw the U.S. as an ally. But even more disturbing, in 2016, 32% saw the U.S. as an enemy, and then in 2018, fully 57%, more than a majority, see the U.S. as an enemy. It's, again, potentially not surprising that in the Levant, anti-American sentiment is a little stronger, with 2/3 seeing the U.S. as an enemy and a little less than a third seeing the U.S. as an ally. In the GCC and North Africa, it's a little more balanced, but it's still a negative opinion of the United States. I think it's also really important to point out that this is a political result, not a social one. Young Arabs don't dislike Americans or America per se. In fact, a little later, we're going to still see in some other data that they admire America. It's one of the places they want to emulate, and it's one of the top places outside of the Middle East that they would like to immigrate to. So this is, what they dislike are the recent, and I mean very recent, policies of America, specifically the policy of the Trump administration. So, the last year with Donald Trump has been, I think, troubling for many in the Middle East. And I think most of the people here also know that most of that wouldn't be happening if Hillary Clinton had won the election. So in a way, it's also the capriciousness in and of itself. With one election, that U.S. policy in the Middle East could change so dramatically and become so uncertain. And I think now people just don't know what to think of the United States and what to expect from them. In contrast, looking at Russia, if we look at the essay written for the Arab Youth Survey by Hussein Ibish, and he writes, even though many young Arabs strongly disapprove of al-Assad, Russia has created the impression of being a strong and decisive power, a steadfast ally, a force for stability and state sovereignty, and a winner. Nothing succeeds like success. So it's not about necessarily agreeing with Russia, but they do see Russia as somebody who fulfills their commitments and stands by their allies through thick and thin. So how bad is the perception of Donald Trump? 73% say his election has had a negative impact on the Middle East. Only 7% say it's positive. Donald Trump's presidency is sitting right there between the war in Yemen and the rise of the Sunni-Shia divide in terms of popularity among Arab youth. And it's not far behind the civil war in Syria and the global financial crisis. So, well, that was depressing. So, Sunil, do you have any good news for us? Yeah.
Of course, the right time for good news. And Curtis, we're going to run through the rest of the findings very quickly because I think the audience is very eager to get our panelists on stage so we can get some more insights from them. But this is a very special finding. And it's actually very good. It is good news because for the 7th year running, the United Arab Emirates remains the top Arab country where young people want to live in and want their own countries to emulate. Since we all live here in the United Arab Emirates, I would like to make sure that we all have a round of applause on this finding. Yeah. And when we looked at the actual numbers, here's consistently, when we introduced the question in the year 2012, all the way to 2018, UAE has been the #1 choice. What is more important for you to appreciate is that UAE has been chosen among about 30 large developed economies across the world, including the United States, as you see, is the 2nd choice. You have Canada, you have Saudi Arabia, who've been chosen by 16% of the young Arabs, and then of course Germany. There's been some changes of late, but you know, Saudi, Germany, Canada have always remained in the top 5. Turkey, France, UK, and Qatar have actually dropped off the list. But this is a very, very special finding. When we asked them the question, which country in the world do you want your own country to emulate? And again, 1/3 of the participants in the surveys, 36% said UAE is the first choice, and the US comes second. And just to reiterate the point that Curtis made, you know, when young Arabs look at America, they have a different point of view when it comes to their political decision. But when they look at America in terms of their values and their way of life, they come in on top too. So, you know, I think they are able to distinguish between the two, which is a great finding for us. Of course, Canada, Japan has made a new entry in the top 5, and Germany remains in the top 5. So that's the list. We asked, as we did last year as well, what are the phrases that you will associate with the United Arab Emirates? And here are the 3 top associations: safety and security, generous salary packages, and work opportunities. Clearly what you see is this, as our commentator for this finding, Raed Barkawi from Al-Khalij, he said this is a bit like a bittersweet truth. You know, the sweetness, of course, is for the UAE to be seen as the model country, but also it also shows the lack of opportunity that young people do not have, that they see UAE as a model country, as somewhere they can come and change their lives. Moving forward into the Levantine finding, we touched on this earlier. Levant had an increasingly bleak outlook compared with peers in North Africa and the Gulf states, and this is very important for us to look at because for policy decisions, this is a problem. We live in one region, and if 86% of the Levantine population say that their countries are going in the wrong direction, we have something to worry about. Of course, we can celebrate that 91% in the Gulf countries see their countries going in the right directions, and North Africa is somewhere in between. It just shows that the difference in opportunities, in wealth, and there is such a big disparity, and that's what shows in this finding. Moving forward, of course, we have finding number. I'm moving forward to finding number 9, which is about media consumption. We have a lot of media friends here, and those who are from television, I must tell you, you have bad news, because for the first time, social media has come as the #1 source for news. And I want to look at this finding. Look at this. We have over 3 years, from 2015 to 2018, look at how social media, particularly Facebook and Twitter, has moved from 25% to 63%. And for the first time, for the first 9 years of this study, TV was king. And for the first time, they have been dethroned from 60 to 51%. Yes, relevant, important, but still going down. That's where it's such a big digital ecosystem we are looking at. To connect to young people, you have to look at social media. And then when you put online news sources, which were websites, you'll see a dramatic change. I don't see young people reading newspapers or magazines. So, they are on their smartphones, and they live 5.5 hours a day looking at it. So, it's an important development for governments and businesses, brand owners, to understand how this is changing. Particularly on the Facebook, we see that as an increased preference as a daily use for news itself, from 35% in 2017 to 49%. And we asked the question, do you use this on a daily basis? 61% said they use more of it. Must clarify that this findings came much before the Cambridge Analytica findings. So, I don't know how many of you are still on Facebook, but in the region, I think it's not made a big difference, maybe in the West. The last finding is a new one that we introduced. We asked, which of the media do you think is trustworthy? And CNN came in as the #1 at 75% as trustworthy. Clearly, as we saw in American media in terms of preference, BBC came in very at 72%, NBC, of course, 71%. Then came Facebook and Google at 71 and 70, Al Arabiya as 64. Nadine, you should be happy. You're there on the top 10. Sky News Arabia, and of course, Jazeera came in at the end as the most untrustworthy brand at 43% negative rating. The final the finding to you, Curtis,
Yep.
number 10.
Great. Another positive finding is that young Arab entrepreneurs are turning to the tech sector, which offers plentiful opportunities. And we can see that the young people in the Middle East recognize the importance of the digital revolution. You can see that the digital revolution ranks the third most impactful event in the Middle East, or development in the Middle East, behind the rise of Daesh and the Arab Spring. But more important, and it's more important than the global financial crisis, the decline in oil prices, the civil war in Syria, and thankfully more important than the election of Donald Trump. 2, it's also seen as a mostly positive development, with 60% of young Arabs seeing it as positive. Technology is also now the top sector that young Arabs want to start a new business in. So 18% of overall say the tech sector is their top choice. But if you narrow that down to those who thought that the digital revolution was the most important development over the last 10 years, fully 28% of those people would want to start a business in technology. And this moves ahead. In the past, retail and real estate have been the top two that people wanted to start a new business in. So technology has now moved into the front position. And the potential here is huge. If we look at who's shopping online right now, about 53% of all respondents are shopping online right now, which means half aren't. And in the GCC, that's about 72%. But it's not very frequently. There's 41% who shop monthly or more frequently than that. and 31% shop less frequently than that. In Levant, about 50% are shopping online, and then in North Africa, about 32%. Online banking is another big opportunity here. Again, about 50% are using online banking today. In the GCC, that adds up to about 74% are using online banking, but in North Africa, it's only 30%, and then around 46% in Levant. So the opportunity is really huge in technology. In her article for the Arab Youth Survey, Maysam Ali of the Stevens Institute cites a McKinsey company estimate that said the digital marketplace could add up to $95 billion per year in the Middle East annual GDP by the year 2020. But there are also some barriers. Online access is a barrier here. About half of Arab youth are not connected to the internet, and other infrastructure is not in place as well. And Maysam Ali also pointed out that that only half shop online right now, in part due to a combination of high shipping costs, cumbersome regulations, obsolete online payment laws, and limited shopping options. So another thing to keep in mind here is that education is critical here. So it's only the people who have the education that are going to be able to participate in the digital economy, and that's going to be very important moving forward. Even in the States, we see a divide between people who are able to participate in the digital economy and those who are not. And I think that's something that we need to pay attention to here as well, to make sure that the sort of education that enables you to do this is available to all.
Indeed, Curtis, when you really look at what young people want, they want jobs, they want opportunity, they want career, new ways to start their own business. And when you really look at the answer, it's very, very simple. And it's 3 words, but one idea: education, education, and education. Because when you really look at it, when you're looking at the 4th industrial revolution, the jobs of the future, they have to make sure that the young people of the Arab world are really fit for future. And this is a serious problem that the governments in the region need to look at, because our education system needs a serious overhaul. And I think if there is one point program that the Arab world can look at, is how do we modernize the education system? How can we bring a new generation of young Arabs that can actually change the face of the Middle East? I'd like to quickly recap the findings. As I said, it's in no order of importance. The first finding was about the past 10 years, and there was a bleak outlook, understandably, because the region went through some upheaval. The second finding, in terms of their future outlook, it was very clear. They wanted simple kitchen table issues, jobs and career opportunities, a corruption-free government, and others. Third, we think is an important finding, is the fact that young people are latching on to hope that, that a leader like the Saudi Crown Prince can change the status quo, that can make a better life for themselves. And that is surprising, because the support across the Arab world. Fourth, of course, is the decision of the Saudi government to start Women to Drive, and the fact that young Arabs want all of the women to be given much more personal freedom. Fifth, about Daesh, and I think it's a very important finding, because when we gave them the choice, they said, we want Daesh, they are convinced that Daesh and its ideology will be defeated. The next 5, and a sixth, of course, the finding that the U.S. is seen as an adversary, and as Curtis mentioned, one of the writers said, this is a move. The jury is still out there. People are going to watch this. Young people still look, in an aspirational point of view, for the U.S. as a country that they want their own country to emulate. The seventh finding, of course, my personal favorite, is, of course, how the UAE is seen as this wonderful city on the hill, as this nation that has created what is pretty impossible in a tough neighborhood, and how they see that it can be done, and that's what the UAE has really proven. The bleak outlook for Levant is not a Levant problem alone. It's a problem for the region. And it is very important that young people in the Levant, which again, many of them war-torn. Imagine if Syria, which we didn't go into, was added
to that sample, it would have been even more bleaker. Ninth, of course, is about the media consumption. We really see how social media is becoming so important in our daily lives. And the 10th finding about the digital revolution and how it is connected to education to make sure that young Arabs are ready for the new digital era that we are living in right now. I'd like to quickly ask my colleagues to put up the tweets that has come from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed. Is that ready to be shown to the audience here? Nidal, is that? We just want. If we'll move on to the next program, I think thank you very much for your attention, and we hope you find the findings useful. That's the tweet here that His Highness Sheikh Mohammed. Round of applause for His Highness, for his support. Over to you, Nadine.
Thank you to Sunil and to Curtis. So over the next 40 minutes, we will discuss some of the key findings of this year's survey with a distinguished panel of speakers. So I will introduce them, and please, if you can kindly join us on stage. Our first speaker is Her Excellency Mrs. Reem Al Hashimi, UAE Minister of State for International Cooperation and Director General of the Dubai Expo 2020 Bureau. Your Excellency, please come up on stage. Her Excellency is also responsible for managing the International Affairs Office of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum and is chairperson of the Federal Competitiveness and Statistics Authority, besides her growth responsibility in organizing the World Expo here in Dubai in 2020. Our second speaker is Her Excellency Dr. Dalia Khorshid, former Investment Minister of Egypt and CEO of Eagle Capital from Cairo. Dr. Khorshid, please also take your seat on stage. Dr. Khorshid, she was the former Minister of Investment of Egypt, where her primary goal was to attract local and foreign investments. She was the youngest and first female Minister of Investment in Egypt and represented a whole new notion in Egypt where women are accepted and respected in turnkey positions in dominant ministries like investment. Forbes listed her as one of the most powerful Arab women in government in 2016. It gives me great pleasure to welcome our third speaker, Mr. Turki Dakhil, General Manager of Al Arabiya News Channel, where I work. Mr. Dakhil, in addition to being an amazing person to work for, he is a well-known commentator on regional affairs with particular focus on Saudi Arabia. Over a 10-year period, Mr. Dakhil also hosted his own popular weekly Al Arabiya talk show Ida'at, or Spotlights, which provided an opportunity for opponents of Arab and Islamic social reform to make their case to a mass audience. For proponents of Arab and Islamic social reform, I have to be very clear on that. Please join me also in welcoming His Excellency Professor Tom Fletcher. He is the Visiting Professor of International Relations at NYU Abu Dhabi and Visiting Professor and Special Advisor for the Emirates Diplomatic Academy. Professor Fletcher has served as the foreign policy advisor to 3 British prime ministers and was British ambassador to Lebanon. I have to say, as a Lebanese, along with many of my compatriots, we admired his high level of engagement in Lebanon's civil society, as well as his political role. He is also the author of The Naked Diplomat, Power and Politics in the Digital Age, which was published in 2016. Before we start our conversation, I would like to point out that we will be opening the floor to questions. Please start preparing your questions for our panelists. I would like this to be as interactive as possible. So thank you very much for being here with us today. It was very interesting to listen to the findings that we just saw. My first question actually is the same one to all of our speakers. Among these findings that we just saw, and within the current economic and social situation in the Middle East, which of the findings did you find to be the most interesting? في ظل الوضع القائم حاليا بالوضع الاقتصادي والسياسي والاجتماعي بالمنطقة، أي من النتائج كانت الأكثر ملفتة لكم؟ Ladies first, we start with Mrs. Reem.
شكرا ندين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. طبعا كل النتائج كانت مهمة وأيضا لافتة للانتباه، لكن النتيجة اللي خلتني أفكر بعمق دور الأمير محمد بن سلمان وقبول العالم العربي بشكل عام بأهمية دوره في تغيير أمور كثيرة في المملكة العربية السعودية، وأيضا طبعا القبول الخليجي لدور الأمير محمد، لكن هذا لا ينحصر على السعودية أو على الدول الخليجية. العالم العربي بشكل عام فوق 80% كانوا جدا متفائلين بدور الأمير. أتوقع أيضا محاربة الفساد لفتت انتباهي. فوق 80% من شباب العالم العربي يريدون مكافحة الفساد، وهذا أيضا دليل كبير على رغبتهم في أنهم يعيشوا حياة كريمة. وكما قلت في البداية الأمير محمد بن سلمان له دور جذري في محاربة الفساد، وهذا يعكس أيضا هذه النتيجة في رغبة الشباب العربي في محاربة الفساد وأن تكون حكوماتهم خالية من الفساد.
رح نناقش عدد من هالنقاط بتحليل أكبر. We will discuss it with more details a little bit later. Dr. Dalia, اتفضلي.
Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you for inviting all of us for the Arab Youth Survey Summit. Most of the findings were very interesting. However, two of the important findings that I thought was interesting to reflect where the Arab youth aspiration is that they exactly know what they want. They know that they want peace, steady economic jobs, they want a decent life, they want a very stable political environment, they want no corruption. They actually know. The other finding that was interesting, which is connected to that, which is the digital revolution, which reflects also the passion of youth to time, and because they're time sensitive, so everything is very fast. They're very fast, they want change. They are very aspired to all the changes around us, so they want a very exposed environment, and that is actually giving us the power, because our generations to come, there are over 200 million Arab youth, and this is what we want, the power of change.
أستاذ تركي.
شكرا جزيلا على الاستضافة. الحقيقة أن النتائج كلها نتائج لافتة ومثيرة للدراسة والاهتمام. ثمة نتائج يمكن تصنيفها على اعتبار أنها نتائج غير مستغربة، خصوصا أن هذا هو العام العاشر للاستطلاع، فهي تتكرر بتكرر الأعوام. أكثر ما يمكن أن يلفتني بالإضافة إلى ما تحدثت به معالي الوزيرة، وهو موضوع اعتبار الأمير محمد ليس من قبل محمد بن سلمان ولي العهد السعودي، ليس من قبل دول مجلس التعاون الخليجي قائدا مهما وقويا خلال ال10 سنوات المقبلة، بل ما يزيد على 60% من شباب العالم العربي. النقطة المثيرة بالنسبة لي هي اعتبار الشباب العربي من أهم أولويات إصلاح الواقع العربي، مواجهة التطرف. لا زلت أذكر عندما كنت أغطي بدايات التطرف بشكله العنيف في السعودية في تقريبا عام 2000 أو 2003، عندما كان هناك تفجيرين في المحية وأكثر ومجمع سكني آخر، أن معظم الناس الذين كنت أجلس معهم من الناس العاديين كانوا يعتبرون أن المواجهة بين الإرهاب هي مواجهة بين هذه العناصر المتطرفة والحكومة، بل أن بعض عناصر الحكومة كانوا يعتبرون أنها مواجهة بين الأمن وبين هذه العناصر المتطرفة. عندما يصل الوعي بالشباب العربي لاعتبار أن موضوع التطرف ليس موضوعا مصنوعا من قبل الحكومات كما كان البعض يظن من قبل، بل هو موضوع يمكن أن يعيق تنميتي أنا كشاب، يعيق محاولتي لبناء مستقبلي أنا كشاب، فهذا انعكاس مهم للوعي، وهو انعكاس بطبيعة الحال له آثاره السلبية. فالواقع السلبي الذي أفرزته داعش
وبقية العناصر المتطرفة بشقيها السني والشيعي في العالم العربي، أعتقد أنها أفرزت هذا الواقع العربي، هذا الوعي الذي هو إيجابي في نظرته لكنه يعكس واقعا سلبيا.
أستاذ تركي، بس فولو أب سريع جدا، لو سئلت بالاستطلاع هل برأيك إيديولوجيا داعش أيضا تتجه نحو الانقراض يعني الفكر داعش، ماذا كنت ستجاوب؟ لأنه كان في تشكيك من أحد المحللين اللي كتب ارتكل على الموضوع، على الفايندينج، يقول أنه شوي بريماتشور، سابق لأوانه الاعتقاد بأنه الفكر أيضا انتهى.
يعني نحن يجب أن نفكر بفكرة. ما الفرق بين داعش والقاعدة؟ كنا نتحدث عن القاعدة منذ التسعينات، وفي السنوات الثلاث الأربع الأخيرة أصبحت داعش. الفرق الرئيسي تقريبا بين داعش والقاعدة هو عنصر وحيد، وإلا فيعني هذه هي ابنة تلك، وهو أن داعش تؤمن بدولة الخلافة، تؤمن بأنها تريد أن تستوطن في العراق والشام، ولذلك الاسم أصلا هو اختصار دولة الخلافة في العراق والشام. بينما كانت القاعدة تتحدث عن فكرة لكن لا يوجد دولة، تتحدث عن نقض لواقع حكومات تعتقد أنها حكومات غير شرعية لكنها لا تؤمن بإيجاد دولة. وهنا أيضا كان هناك بعض مصادر الخلاف التفصيلية بين قادة القاعدة وقادة داعش. الحقيقة أن التطرف بشقيه أيضا السني والشيعي، سواء كان أيا كان سبب وجود هذا أو ذاك، وهذا نتيجة لذا أو العكس، أنها أزمة حقيقية وهي أزمة أفكار ومبادئ. ولذلك الحديث عن أعتقد أن أحد أهم أسباب إعجاب الشباب العربي بالأمير محمد بن سلمان ليس فقط أنه يطرح موضوعا تنمويا، بل لأنه يفكر في عملية الإصلاح الديني، في تقديم الإسلام الحقيقي المعتدل الذي يمكن أن لا يجعل أي شاب عربي مثلا يتحدث مع شاب عربي مسلم مع شاب غير مسلم يخجل من قوله مسلم أني أنا مسلم لأن داعش تمثلني. فإصلاح الفكر الديني أعتقد أنه فكرة غاية في الأهمية. الحديث عن أن داعش دحرت عسكريا لا يعني أنها دحرت فكريا، وكما نبتت داعش من رحم القاعدة أعتقد أن هناك أفكار دواعش أخرى ستنبت في القريب العاجل، ولا يجب أن نتفائل كثيرا، نتفائل بدحرها عسكريا، لكن المواجهة الفكرية وضرورة قوية جدا في تحرير.
Professor Fletcher, do you have a comment on that specific point? And also I would like to hear your answer about the findings. Which of the findings you found to be the most interesting?
Well, I think as we've said, and congratulations to Sunil and congratulations to the UAE as well for this evidence of this magnetic quality that attracts many, not just from the region, but many of us from outside the region to the UAE. I think we keep using this word, opportunity. It keeps coming back to opportunity. There may be this negative perception of the phrase, the Arab Spring, because the Arab Spring became known as something that led to more extremism in the region. But let's not lose that desire that was behind much of the Arab Spring for more security, as we've discussed, more justice and more opportunity. Let's not throw that out. And that means creating the right kind of jobs in the region. It means helping people to seize this smartphone superpower that they know technology gives them. It means getting the education systems right. It means ensuring that women aren't just behind the driving seat of cars, but are behind the driving seat of boardrooms and cabinet rooms across the region. So I think it keeps coming back to opportunity. The other thing that struck me as a Brit in the report is the sobering evidence on America. Sunil used the phrase shining city on a hill. From my generation, we all want to believe that America is that shining city on a hill. And many of the respondents do believe the American people represent that sort of beacon of hope and liberty in the world. But what's clear, again, is that an election for leader of the free world created a vacancy for leader of the free world. And there was a danger early in the Trump presidency that some people felt that because he hated Iran and because he liked gold, shiny things, that he was someone who would be good for the region. But I think what we've seen since then is much more clearly his views on women, and much more clearly his views on Islam. In both cases, dangerous and damaging views for the region, and not just for the half of the respondents who are women. Now, I do think America gets back. I think the lights do come back on in the shining city on a hill, and part of the answer will be more cooperation with Silicon Valley, with these digital companies, and with the digital opportunities that the young people have identified.
I think people still look to the United States, to its educational institutions, to its movie industry. It is still a place that they want to live in. But as you said, the politics is playing a big role, and the jury is out. Let's wait for the 12th of May, the decision on Iran as well. I think it will make a big difference. As someone who is coming from Lebanon and living in Dubai for the past 15 years, a striking finding for me was when the youth said that the past decade, shaped by the Arab Spring and Daesh, has left the Middle East drifting off course. And when you go into the details of this finding, the majority of respondents said that viewed the Middle East as going in the wrong direction, whereas it was a different story in the GCC, where 57% of the youth viewed the Middle East as going in the right direction. Your Excellency, Mrs. Reem El-Hashemi, I'd like to hear your view. Why do you think is there this divergence, and what do you think of this divergence? هذا الاختلاف بين طريقة تصويت الشباب من المشرق العربي بالدرجة الأولى اللي كانوا كثير سلبيين على توجه المنطقة، بينما بالخليج كانت قصة مختلفة تماماً.
أعتقد قبل ما أرد على سؤالك إذا في إمكانية أيضا مداخلة بسيطة في محاربة الإرهاب والتطرف. محاربة الإرهاب والتطرف يتطلب الاستمرارية. الاستمرارية في هذه المحاربة ضرورة، لأن مثل ما تفضل أخي تركي، الفكر لابد من أن يكون له مواجهة بشكل مستمر. نحن اليوم ولله الحمد منظمة داعش في تدني، لكن ما نريد في المستقبل يكون عندنا داعش 2.0 في مكان ثاني في وقت آخر. فلابد أن نتذكر، ونحن الحمد لله في دولة الإمارات كنا دائما نحارب التطرف والإرهاب من الثمانينات ومن التسعينات حتى قبل أحداث سبتمبر 11. فهذا الفكر فكر جدا مؤذي، ولابد من المواجهة المستمرة. أما بالنسبة للفارق الشاسع في الاستبيان، أقول أن العالم الخليجي أو الدول الخليجية أبدت بمبادرات جديدة تفعل الأمل في الشباب العربي. إن كانت مبادرة صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد عن 1,000,000 مبرمج عربي، أو تعيين معالي شمة المزروعي كأول وزيرة شابة تمثل جيل الشباب، تؤيد وتدعم آرائهم وترفع هذه الآراء إلى الحكومة، تكوين المجالس الشبابية في مختلف الإمارات، وأيضا المجلس العالمي، المجلس العربي للشباب. كل هذه المبادرات كانت مبادرات إيجابية، بالإضافة طبعا إلى رؤية الأمير محمد بن سلمان، رؤية 2030، والرغبة دائما في التطوير وفي التحديث وفي التنمية المستمرة. واعتقد ان هذه المبادرات اكدت رغبه الحكومه في فتح صفحات جديده مو للشباب ولكن مع الشباب. طبعا في مبادرات اخرى مثل مبادره اكسبو 2020، لكن ما اريد اطول كثير في الحديث عن الاكسبو، بس مثل هذه الافكار ومثل هذه الخطط الوطنيه الدقيقه تأتي بأفكار جديدة وبرغبة من الحكومة لفئة الشباب بأن يشاركون في عملية التنمية وفي عملية النهضة.
Dr. Dalia, I'd like your opinion on that, especially that if you look at the reasons for the negativity, probably in the wider Middle East region, we cannot omit the implications of the Arab Spring, so-called Arab Spring. So if we look at the results of the survey this year compared to a few years back, it was surprising how negatively the Arab youth viewed the legacy of the Arab Spring in this year's survey. What are the implications of this shift in mood, do you think, across the region?
Okay, let's look at how the youth view the Arab Spring in general, because actually the Arab Spring was again a wave of change, an expression of how we want to dictate our future. It's a means of communication as well. It's how they want to be listened to and what are the messages that they want. And it's creating the environment that they want. So as far as we are concerned in the region, it's been accepted that it's okay if our views hasn't led to the regimes that we've asked for, and it's okay that we have another revolution and we redirect our path to the direction that we are actually aspiring to the environment that we want. It's how fast we want and how fast we can correct our direction. And that's why maybe the view has been, if we get into a wind of change and it doesn't get us to the regime that we've looked for or the environment that we've aspired to, then it's okay. We will redirect ourselves again, and it's nothing there to get us to be stuck to where we are or what we are in. It's about shaping our future, knowing what we want, getting the jobs that we aspire for. It's also when you look at Egypt, for example, the past couple of years, 2016 was the year of youth in Egypt. We've been having an initiative by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who on a monthly basis has been actually dedicating time with all the cabinet, with all the ministers, with the board of directors of major corporations, listening to the youth, hearing them out, discussing with them various issues, discussing with them job creation and fighting terrorism, exactly what we have been discussing. So it's been a two-way relationship with youth in listening and actually getting them to listen to you, so that actually things synergize into the right direction of the greater community that we're actually aspiring to. So it's okay if there has been different opinions. That's healthy, because everything is two-way. And this is important for us to understand, that youth are actually aspiring to differences, and with the digital technology and things that are changing very fast, this is actually going to change even faster and faster.
Mr. Turki, you're the only Saudi on the panel, so I'd like to dwell with you on what I think is one of the most important findings, the results that we saw in the perception of the youth of the region towards the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. We kind of felt that there was general support among the Saudi youth for his reform and for the Vision 2030, but the figures today validate that. 90% of Saudi youth support him, and the surprising statistic is that more than 60% of Arab youth view him as a strong leader and one that will shape the next decade. بالبزنس نيوز ونعرف كم كانت جدلية قضية الريتس، بس يبدو انه عند الشباب فئة من 18 ل 24 مؤيدين بشكل كبير جدا للانتي كوربشن درايف اللي عملها ولي العهد.
اول شيء كويس انه احنا في ارماني مش في الريتس. الحقيقة أنه يمكن أنا حظيت بفرصة أن أكون أول شخص التقى في مقابلة إعلامية مع الأمير محمد بن سلمان في أبريل 2016، يعني مضى عامين تقريبا وشهر على هذه المقابلة. منذ ذلك الوقت عندما طرح الأمير محمد بن سلمان في مقابلة تلفزيونية للناس أفكاره بشكل واضح، واستمع الناس إلى هذا الرجل الذي بدأ جديدا على المشهد العربي والمشهد السعودي بطبيعة الحال. والسنتين اللتين تلتا تلك المقابلة رأى كثير من الشباب في السعودية والشباب في العالم العربي كيف أن هذا القائد الذي ينتمي إلى فئة عمرية هي تشكل ثلثي الفئة العمرية في السعودية وربما أقل بقليل في العالم العربي. نحن نعرف أنه نحو 60% من العالم العربي بحدود 30 أو أقل من 30 عام. هؤلاء يريدون قائدا يشبههم، يريدون رجلا يفكر مثلهم. إذا رجعنا إلى جيل الألفية ستجد أن أهم الصفات لدى هذا الجيل هو أنه يريد أن تحدث الأشياء ليس غدا ولا الأسبوع المقبل بل أمس. هذا الجيل
مستعجلين.
أي يبغى الأشياء تصير أمس وقبل أمس والأسبوع الماضي. do it not now, do it yesterday. هذا واحد. ولذلك يعني تحضرني قصة حدثني مسؤول خليجي رفيع قبل بضع سنوات أن وزير الخارجية الأمريكي السابق جون كيري كان يتحدث معه عن السعودية ويقول مشكلتنا في السعودية أننا نعتبر أن السعودية حليف رئيسي لنا، لكننا نتعاطى مع قادة كبار في السن، وكبر القادة أعمارهم نواجه بعده مشكلة حقيقية فيه. بعد سنة بعد التغيير وبعد أن تولى الملك سلمان وجاء بأجيال جديدة، جون كيري نفسه قال لذات الزعيم الخليجي مشكلتنا مع القادة في السعودية أنهم شباب جدا. فأتخيل أن بعض القيادات تريد أن تصمم أعمار قيادات السعودية والخليج كما يفعل الأطفال مع الليجوز، فلا هذه نافعة ولا هذه نافعة. الفارق أن الأمير يعني قراءتي لتميز أو لقبول الشباب السعودي 90% منهم و60% من الشباب العربي، وهي المفاجئة للأمير محمد، أن الأمير محمد أول شيء لم يقدم نفسه كزعيم سياسي فقط، وتجاوز الأطروحات السياسية التقليدية التي يمارسها أي زعيم. أنا كنت أغطي بوصف صحافي الزيارة الأخيرة التي قام بها مثلا الولايات المتحدة، لم تتعدى الأدوار السياسية مقابلة المسؤولين في البيت الأبيض ومسؤولي الكونغرس والمسؤولين السياسيين من كافة الأطراف يومين، بينما كان يقابل الشركات التجارية، يذهب إلى شركات التكنولوجيا، يحاول أن يفتح فرص مع شركات الإنتاج السينمائي، يريد أن يفتح فرص مع ناس آخرين، يسهل لرجال الأعمال أيضا وليس فقط للحكومة مناخات لعملهم. إذا نحن أمام زعيم يتجاوز في رؤيته مع مراعاة أمر غاية في الأهمية، وهو أن هذا الزعيم أو هذه الإدارة تأتي أو استولت الحكم وأسعار النفط كانت $32 بل أقل من $30، ولذلك جاء التفكير بفكرة أن نفتح آفاق جديدة، أن لا يكون النفط هو المصدر الوحيد لاقتصادنا. ربما حضرتك لاحظتي أمس أنه المملكة العربية السعودية تجاوزت في الربع الأول إيراداتها غير النفطية ارتفعت إلى أكثر من 60% من العام الماضي، وهذا هو أحد الانعكاسات لهذه السياسات. كل العالم العربي يتحدث عن الفساد، كل الشباب العربي يتحدث عن الفساد، يتحدث عن انعدام الفرص، لكننا لم نجد أي تصرف في العالم العربي مثل ما قامت به السعودية. خلافا للجدلية التي تفضلت بها، هل هذا صحيح، هل هذا غير صحيح؟ يجب أن نأخذ بعين الاعتبار أيضا التركيبة الاجتماعية في دول الخليج، وأن القرار الذي بني عليه مكافحة الفساد بأمر ملكي كان يتحدث عن أن من يجري تسوية يمكن أن يخرج دون أن يشهر باسمه أو أن يظهر كم دفع أو كم سوى أو كم قدم. أعتقد أن هذه أمور فاعلة جدا وساهمت في صناعة هذا الموضوع، بالإضافة أيضا إلى أن الأمير قدم في مقابلاته الكثيرة قدم نموذجا لقائد لا يريد أن ينفصل عن تراثه، لا يريد أن ينفصل عن دينه، لكنه يريد أن يقدم إسلاما معتدلا، لا إسلاما مختطفا ليس فقط من داعش. ترى داعش هي خريج الكلية، لكن في جماعة مثل جماعة الإخوان المسلمين هي الثانوية، لا يمكن أن تتخرج من الكلية دون أن تتخرج من الثانوية. فأيضا الحديث تحرير الإسلام الحقيقي من اختطافه من قبل جماعات متطرفة، سواء كانت تمارس العنف بوضوح أو تتستر في ممارسة العنف مثل جماعات الإخوان المسلمين وجماعات مشابهة. أعتقد أن هذا أيضا كان أحد أهم أسباب الخروج بنتيجة مفاجئة من هذا.
Professor Fletcher, when there is a high level of optimism, there are also dangers embedded in that. How do you think that the level of expectations should be managed? Because when we talk about diversifying the economy away from oil, we are talking about harsh measures and painful measures, and creating jobs is not something that can happen overnight. It's a very long-term process. So are you worried that this high level of optimism might be exaggerated, and do you think that there should be a management of expectations in that area?
I mean, well, overall, I'm pro-optimism. I would much rather that people were feeling more optimistic and reflecting that sense of dynamism and energy and ambition.
But you don't want them to think that this is happening tomorrow.
Exactly. I mean, you want more of the region to feel like a room like this, diverse and ambitious and curious about the world. But what we've learned in the digital age is that popularity is easier to get, harder to use, and easier to lose. Ask Barack Obama, ask Emmanuel Macron, ask Justin Trudeau, and ask many other leaders who've been over that curve very fast. So it's very important to continue to deliver, to take people with you, ensure the population is with you, that you're doing things for the population but also with the population, as we've heard. Incredibly important. And also to think about that long-term investment as well. We've mentioned education several times. Sunil mentioned education. It's not just getting the millions of kids across the region who aren't in school into school. Well, that is vital, and Her Excellency is leading that effort. It's also about the quality of education. If these kids are going to be ensuring the robots work for them and that they don't work for the robots, they need a whole new set of skills. Adaptability, resilience, this curiosity, this ability to learn new professions, new trades. Those are going to be absolutely vital. And yet most young people in the region, even those in education, are learning the wrong things in the wrong way.
And that's one of the major reasons for the youth unemployment, basically, the high levels of youth unemployment.
Exactly. And if we are going to find a way to create that entrepreneurial spirit, that creativity in the region that will deliver the hundreds of thousands of 21st century jobs we need when half of the current jobs disappear in a few decades, then we will need a long-term investment, particularly from the wealthier countries, in those sorts of skills and character education.
Two of our speakers need to leave us very shortly, so this is why I would like to open the floor for questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we can pass on the microphone. You can address your questions to any of our panelists. Please, here on the third row. Please, can you always introduce yourself and let us know who is your question addressed to?
شكرا. السلام عليكم. أنا كهل ترضون برأيي ولا بس الشباب؟ أنا رجل كهل ما أعرف يعني أولا. ثاني شيء أنا أول شيء أشكر المؤسسة القائمة على هذا التقييم، وأنا فخور كسعودي لأنه ولي العهد أخذ هذه النسبة العالية وكذلك الاهتمام في الشأن السعودي. وأشكر معالي الوزيرة والأستاذ تركي لأنهم تحدثوا في العربية. طيب ما دام أنتم يعني الاستبيان يستهدف الشباب العربي، ما المانع أن تكون اللغة في العربية؟ وحنا في دولة الإمارات العربية، ورئيس دولة الإمارات العربية أصدر تعميم أن اللغة في العربية أولاً. ثاني شيء أيضاً الملاحظة فنية، أنتم تقولون للشباب العربي بعدين تطمرون على الشرق الأوسط، لماذا لا تقولون للشباب العربي في الوطن العربي؟ هذه ملاحظة فنية. السؤال لماذا لا استهدفت الجامعات كما ذكر الأستاذ تركي؟ لأنه تفريخ الإرهاب والأفكار تنبض، وأنا كأكاديمي وإعلامي، لماذا لا تستهدف الجامعات؟ يعني كيف تتعلم الشباب، كيف تخرج كذا، لأنه داعش وغيره وأخواتها كلهم خرجوا من الكليات والجامعات. شكرا.
شكرا. في سؤال ثاني وهلا بناخذ تعليق على يمكن تغيير المناهج. في سؤال is there another question please? Let us take a couple of questions and then we'll try to answer them. Here on the fifth row please. Yes, the microphone is behind you. Please always introduce yourself and let us know who is the question addressed to.
Hi, sorry. My name is Moe Shawash. I work in advertising. And my question is about the results where it was showing trust amongst Russia than the US. Then the US has dropped to the 11th place. All of my knowledge, I'm a person that works in media, is that Russia has contributed nothing but interfering in Syria's war. They have never contributed to any of the media scene or entertainment or industry or anything that is about building in the Middle East. They just contributed to destruction. Forget Trump on the side for the US part of the world. The US has done Me Too, a movement for women empowerment, everything you want to think of. So why does the panel think the results have dropped off trust to the US? Is it only because of Donald Trump? Is it something else?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question here on the second row. I'm writing down the questions and I will ask for your comments.
My name is Maad Bouchesh. I work for Enoch.
Please, can you raise your voice a little bit?
My name is Maad Bouchesh. I work for Enoch. My question is for Her Excellency Reem Al Hashmi. We talk about the youth today, and obviously Expo 2020 is coming up. I'd like to hear from her what initiatives and programs the Expo is doing in that space.
Okay, let us start by answering the last question, Your Excellency, Ms. Reem.
شكرا معاذ. طبعا إينوك شريك أساسي في مشروع إكسبو 2020 ونحن نفتخر بهذه الشراكة معكم. كما قلت في البداية رؤية دولة الإمارات في دمج فئة الشباب في عملية القرارات السياسية جزء جدا مهم من استراتيجية حكومة الإمارات، وبالتالي ومن الطبيعي أن مشروع إكسبو 2020 كون أن هذا المشروع مشروع وطني لابد أن يركز على فئة الشباب. اليوم ولله الحمد حوالي 30% من موظفي الإكسبو، وصلنا حوالي 700 شخص دون السن 30. عندنا ديبارتمنت مخصص فقط لشؤون الشباب وبشكل خاص في ترويج الإكسبو في الجامعات وفي المدارس، لكن الترويج مش وان سايدد، لابد أن يكون في نوع من المشاركة مع المدرسين والأهم من هذا من الطلبة. اليوم قبل ما أجيكم في الأرماني كنت مع أو شفت طلبة من مدرسة من الفجيرة موجودين في مقر الإكسبو يتكلمون عن آمالهم وعن آرائهم بالإكسبو 2020 وعن الأشياء اللي يريدوا يشوفوها في الإكسبو. فبالتالي على هذا النطاق في تركيز كثير على اندماج فئة الشباب، لكن الأهم من هذا قررنا من حوالي 2 أن نعمل أكثر مع الشركات الصغيرة والمتوسطة. حوالي 20% من البروكيورمنت العام للإكسبو لابد أن يكون من هذه الفئة. هناك بعض التحديات في هذا المجال، ولكن جالسين ندرسها بطريقة جدية، لأن جدا مهم أن رواد الأعمال كما رأينا أيضا في الاستبيان يؤمنون بأن لهم دور أيضا في هذا الإكسبو. والنقطة الأخيرة اللي أريد أتطرق لها هو موضوع المتطوعين. فئة كبيرة من المتطوعين في الإكسبو سيكونون أيضا من فئة الشباب، يتعلمون الآن لغات مختلفة ويريدون أيضا أن يعكسون الثقافة الإماراتية في استضافة دبي لهذا الحدث المهم.
Professor Fletcher, would you like to answer the question about Russia that was asked?
Yeah, I think it was a really good question. I'm glad you've given us a chance to touch on it. I think there is a wider issue underlying the survey and underlying broader trends. A real challenge, a real crisis of trust between generations. I think we are seeing that with the exceptions of some countries, and clearly the UAE is one of them, and Saudi is one of them on the survey, young people globally are finding it harder and harder to trust the generation in office and in power to leave them with a world better than the one they found. And I think that's a real challenge for governments everywhere. The Russia point is really important. I find this a bit baffling, to be honest, this finding. I think that there are some countries that look at the internet, as young people in this survey do, and see a great opportunity for spreading equality, for spreading education, for building jobs and skills and a better region. Other countries, including Russia, look at the internet and see a weapon. There are some countries that look at the conflict in the region and see this as something that we must work relentlessly to end, starting with Syria. There are other countries that look at the conflict in the region and see this as an opportunity to divide and rule. And I would put Russia, I'm afraid, to say in that category. I suspect the findings are, as we heard earlier, not so much about trust in Russia's vision for the region, if there is one, but more in a respect for strength and the projection of strength. But I hope that the region has more opportunity and less conflict in 10 years' time when you do the 20th anniversary survey.
أستاذ تركي، هل هي شخصية دونالد ترامب، بما أنه 73% من الشباب كانوا ضد يعني انتخابه رئيس، أو يعتبرون أنه انتخابه رئيس هو تطور سلبي، هل تربطها بذلك أم هي خطوات نقل السفارة في جيروزالم أو قصة البان على الإسلام، على السفر الإسلام، يعني كيف تفسرها؟
أنا أعتقد تأكيدا على كلام البروفيسور أنه ثمة عدة عوامل ساهمت في هذه النتيجة، وهي اعتبار روسيا حليف أكثر من الولايات المتحدة. ربما يبدو انتخاب دونالد ترامب وسياسات دونالد ترامب باعتبار القدس عاصمة أو نقل السفارة الأمريكية إلى القدس، هذه هي نتائج رأس الجليد. لكن الحقيقة أن سياسة الرئيس أوباما التي أفرغت المنطقة من التحالف الحقيقي الأمريكي وأتاحت المجال لوجود قوي لروسيا لم يكن معهودا منذ عشرات السنين. هذا هو الذي دفع أيضا، وشخصية الرئيس بوتين وليست فقط السياسات الروسية هي التي دفعت بالشباب العربي ليرى أن روسيا تمثل حليف أقوى من الولايات المتحدة. فالقصة أولا تتجاوز فقط، يعني احنا نتحدث عن 18 شهر تقريبا لوجود الرئيس الأمريكي، هذه نقطة. فأعتقد أن غياب عدم مشاركة أو فعالية الولايات المتحدة في العهد الأوبامي في مواجهة الكارثة السورية، في مواجهة استخدام الأسلحة الكيميائية من قبل النظام ضد الشعب هناك، هو الذي جعل الشباب العربي يعتبر أن الولايات المتحدة
ليست بالحليف القوي
في مقابل وجود روسيا. أيضا لابد أن نفكر بأننا نتاج لعملية صناعة للوعي تراتبت على مدى بضعة عقود، والفكرة القومية واليسارية التي كان العالم العربي يقاد من قبلها كانت لديها أيضا عداء تجاه الولايات المتحدة وما يسمى بالإمبريالية الغربية، وهذا جاء امتداد أيضا لهذه الفكرة. لكن لا أظن خصوصا في منطقة الخليج العربي، وهذه أيضا نتيجة مفاجئة، أن الشباب يرى أن الولايات المتحدة، يعني نحن في العالم العربي لدينا إشكالية نتيجة الاستفتاء هي امتداد لهذه الإشكالية، وهي أننا لا نقيم الدول كمؤسسات بل نقيمها كأفراد. فنحن نتعاطى مع الولايات المتحدة على اعتبار أنها دونالد ترامب، بينما الولايات المتحدة ليست دونالد ترامب فقط. قد يبدو دونالد ترامب هو الوجه الأكثر ظهورا. وإذا أيضا
أنت بتعرف الباور أوف ذا ميديا، هو موجود بالميديا كل يوم يعني.
لا، أيضا موجود في التكنولوجي، استخدامه للسوشيال ميديا هو أيضا نتيجة من النتائج الرئيسية.
Dr. Dalia, there was a finding that the Arab youth overwhelmingly welcome the move to allow women to drive in Saudi Arabia, but say more must be done to address women's rights throughout the region. You made a breakthrough, and in Egypt, I have to say that there are many advancements for women in the political life, but what needs to be done to tackle gender equality in general? We still see an underrepresentation of women in many areas in the Arab world, especially in the business and political areas.
As far as women and gender equality, it's not only about bringing women and putting them in power. It's about what positions are they in power. Okay, like we have currently 2017 was the year in Egypt where we have taken this year, it was the year for women, and it was engaging women at all aspects. So all the political power and all the political will was actually in making sure that women is actually empowered in the right positions, not only in the government, in the cabinet, it's also being advocated within the parliament, we have the first governor woman, and we have all the power of engaging women with respect to decision making. And this was very important in order to ensure that they are actually engaged and they are actually equal, and they actually have their positions and empowerment to lead the change and to lead mentorship and positions that are very important in the country. So actually, women in Egypt is feeling. I'm an example because, for example, investment and managing the investment file. I've become the first minister of investment. So it's not just becoming a minister, it's becoming a minister of which file. This is what has been important, and this is what we've been taking in Egypt, directed by our president and the political will and all the policymakers as well.
I would have liked to continue on and on because the findings are so interesting, but two of our speakers have other engagements and they have to leave us, unfortunately. So we will stop at that. I would like to thank you for your time and thank you for your patience. And I hope you found the conversation enjoyable. Actually, Professor Fletcher is saying that you could also tweet them questions, and he is willing to answer on social media, on Twitter. I would like you to stay with us on stage just for a group photo, and I would like to ask Sunil to join us for the group photo as well. I would like to also thank not only our panelists and the audience, but also the entire team comprising Asda Burson Marsteller, PSB Research and Proof, led by Sunil John, and Bluefish team for their excellent event management. And on behalf of Asda Burson Marsteller, I'd like to invite you to lunch outside in the foyer of the ballroom. And please don't forget to pick up the Arab Youth Survey white paper on